It's absolutely kicking off at the Chess Olympiad in Hungary in round 6 here, and I'm not even covering a Magnus Carlsen game. My hand's shaking, withdrawal symptoms. We're going in on Arjun Erigaisi, a guy who's storming through the ranks. It's insane. He's just won 6 out of 6. He's farming them out there for fun, these chess grandmasters. This is truly incredible. Magnus Carlsen levels, I'm not even joking. His opponent goes e4, best by test. He's Sanan Sugarov. He's from, let me remind myself, Hungary. Yes, I thought so. e5 now in response, and these ponies developing into the game. We get bishop b5, played with a whoosh. This is the Roy Lopez, sometimes called the Spanish game. a6 puts the question, and now hang on. Can you not take? Shatter the pawns, win a pawn? Well, no. The femme fatale interrupts with all her matter of truth. You win back the pawn. So this one drops back. This is the main line here. Knight f6, castles, and now these are the main moves. Everyone and his chess dog goes for one of these. Does Arjun do it? No. He goes d6 here. This is the move of a man who's been on the open circuit, right? Can't get an invitation to Peter Lecco's annual soirees. Sorry, I mean the Super Grandmaster tournaments where you play the top guys. So he's had to find a way to mix it up, play against weaker players and win. So we see rook e1 in response. Bishop d7 looks a bit weird, but all part of the system. The c pawn advances, looking to erect that big white center, and g6, d4 going for it, and Arjun tucks that bishop into the banana hammock. h3 gives the king a bit of Lufthansa, castles, knight bd2, Sanan's chilling here, he controls the center, and Arjun takes. Pawn recaptures, is completely under siege. What is he playing at? Well, he's tiptoeing this fine line. Knight b4, top engine move, obviously. Now we see captures, queen takes back, and there's a threat here to go knight d3. Do you go queen b3 or knight f1? Well, what you don't do is burn like 20-25 minutes making that decision. Already, after 30 moves with the white pieces, you're like 50 minutes down if you're in Sanan's shoes. Crazy. Arjun goes a5. He's got more time than he started with because they gain some back per move. Now we get a3, and look at this. Arjun's done his homework, just dropping the knight back. Pawn is immune because if you do it, bang, the queen's in jail. Stock mollusk poops its pants because that queen's completely trapped. So that's why the pawn wasn't touched. It's poisoned, as they say. We now get d5 instead. And what's the last move you'd expect that pony to make right now? Arjun plays it, completely forgetting which way his pieces move. Gukesh gives him a look and he bucks up his ideas. Or has he forgotten? Pawn is captured. He now plays the only move to stay in the game, which is pony to a6 here, heading for the c5 square. The queen gets out of dodge, anticipating attacks, and now this one becomes a seahorse. The queen's under fire, hits the most explosive square, c4, and e5 is a huge threat. It's amazing how fast the black position unravels if you allow that. That's what's incredible about this opening. So what does Arjun do? Comes up with this absolutely incredible move. I mean, you just do not play this if you don't know what you're doing. He goes queen a4. Look at that. Is he Magnus in disguise? No, he's a man who's been prepping with an engine. This is why he sits home, petting his favourite oversized pony, eating his favourite delicacy,
mushrooms,
and allowing Stock Barnacle to go deep to depth 64 so he can find variations like this. Loves it on a Saturday night. Do we see the queens come off? Well, not immediately. Now, what happens if it was played? It's an important point to note because b3 can be played to protect this pawn, which otherwise is going to come under this huge fire. You kick back the knight. This is the top engine line to bring out the rook. Yes, b3 can be taken, but c7 drops. And this is the general theme, that although black is a pawn down, there's huge pressure on e4 as well as the b file. You win one of them back, basically. So that's the way the game was headed, but instead we see e5 played. Why do I mention this? Because now when the queens leave the board, knight recaptures, pawn takes here, Arjun is able to recapture a central pawn instead of say a B pawn or something, material is restored, and look at that. The knights have arranged themselves into a massive knight, the final boss of knights, some kind of stable. I don't know, you got to help me out with the name here. And at this moment, the hall starts shaking. It's just such an incredible sight. Confetti bursts from the ceiling, douses the players with gold little flecks. Magnus has had enough. He's disgruntled, marches off with his lovely bouquet of flowers. Game goes on here with rook d1, attacking that pony in the centre. It drops back to b6, boo, ruins our cube here. We'd love to see this to recomplete it, but then a knight drops. And if your head's already spinning with all of these jumps, well, bishop e3, it just gets better. Got a bit carried away here. If you've had a drink, don't worry, we see it too, but I'm afraid it doesn't get any better. This one's attacked here. It's now defended like this by moving it, supports the other one. Look at all these jumps, everyone's head spinning. Bishop d4, rook a d8. Look at the clock times, nearly an hour to 3 minutes. This is insane. And now finally our heads can stop spinning because the bishop gives itself up. Arjun recaptures with the pawn. He wants to maintain the pressure here. We get knight d7, go into fork Vegas. This actually wins a pawn, but after these ones, go into the blender. Arjun wins it right back. Takes off these cannons here is what Sanan does. Saves the rook, saves the a-pawn. This one checks, the bishop saves itself. And I bet you, move 31, Arjun's probably had this blooming endgame at home, on his engine. The Silicon Overlord sees all. He probably understands the themes. Watch how he now goes to work. Izzy Carlson in disguise. The knight comes back to c4, hitting the pawn here. And what a move this is, a4. Okay, not what a move, it's an obvious move, but look at how it now sits on the head of the a3 pawn, like a powerful sumo wrestler. And it's this micro thing which makes the position uncomfortable. g3, bishop c5, rook c2 played, rook d4. The point is, this bishop has got targets, and because it's a bishop, it plays better when there's pawns on both sides. Knights struggle with that one. They can only jab, right? They can't spray out with the... what's it called? No, sorry, knights can hook, bishops can jab. They're the long range ones. Too tired. Now we see king g2. King f8, the king's marching in, this rook hits c3, king e7, knight e5, opens up the attack, and the rook centralizes, defending, also attacking, knight d3 back to attack once more. That one now drops to b6, keeping an eye on f2, we get king f3, rook b5 here, and after king e2, how about this for a move, on time control, Arjun mixing it up with rook b3. I mean, who normally does this? Who puts those tricky questions to the opponent? Is it a good exchange? Is it a bad exchange? Now, if you take pawn recaptures, it's playable. This is a kind of sample line, but the pawn and bishop complement each other really well. There's pressure here. The king marches in very quickly. Really difficult to evaluate, and black does stand a bit better. So it wasn't played. What should you do? Rook c6 apparently. Drop the pawn. Sorry, not immediately. The bishop has to be saved. Let's say bishop d8. Eventually the pawn drops, but you just get the rook active behind the passed pawn. Difficult stuff to see all of this. What do we see in response? Knight b4, and the clock times are weird because it looks like Sanan got 30 minutes back, then burnt like 25 deciding on knight b4. What do they say? Long think, wrong think. His idea is if you take, I do this, I win back the piece, and yes, it is headed for a draw, as the engine shows over here. But you don't have to take here. What does Arjun do? King d7 simply. Steps out of the check, covers the c6 square as well, and now another mistake. Rook c4 apparently best, but okay, you're dropping a pawn. These are very difficult concepts. We see check played from here. Arjun swaps these ones off, knight recaptures, and king c6. He's slowly squeezing. What a boa constrictor. What a bishop. It's more of a pope. We now see f3 to save that one, free up the knight so it doesn't have to babysit. King d5 and g4, apparently the best pawn structure, but not played. King c2, anticipating this sort of thing. Now bishop g7 and h4, wrong structure. Arjun goes bishop f6, now targeting this one. We can see why this would maybe have been a better pawn structure, right? We now see this move of king d2, king c4 threatening, so king c2 back, and h5 fixing the weakness, and Sanan now chucks a pawn. Begs the question, why did he do it? You know, what if you wait with king d2? Well, actually then you can march in here, fine. What if you do something with the knight? But the long story short is the king can always march this way or in here. Plus the bishop can drop back and attack here. You know, say you go knight b4. Just really difficult to hold it all together. So g4 pushed on the board. Takes, pawn takes. This one drops. Arjun is now ahead of pawn for the first time in the game. This is the check, however, that Sanan's opened up. He does win the f7 pawn, but bishop f6 covers h8, only winning move, and that knight is looking in jail. Sure, you can do this to extricate, but after king e6, whoops, this one here, covering the square. Now to free the knight, bishop g5 on the way, you have to make space. But this is a completely hopelessly lost endgame. You're getting trousered basically. So we come back here. Instead we see king d3 on the board. Now this knight is hit by the king. It jumps to h6, bishop g5, and look at that. Because you never took the time to push the g-pawn, etc., you brought in the king for a tempo, the knight's now trapped. We get this move of knight f5. If it comes here, still trapped with king f7. So this was played, simply giving a minor piece for a pawn. Never going to work, but there's only one winning move here. How many of us are taking Freddy the f-pawn? If you do, you lose because the king simply marches in, goes gobble gobble. So that is why king d5 is the winning move, covers the square, forces resignation. Here's a sample line. You know, what if you go say king c2? Is this what I was clicking on? No, I was clicking on king c3 rather. But the point is you can never actually get in. The pieces kind of shoulder up that white king. Eventually you come round, eat the a pawn. This one's blockaded and you just can't stop it going through. You make a queen or you make a knight if you're really feeling fancy, and that's how the game could end. So this is the final position. Arjun on his way to 2800 here. Incredible run for him and the India team. What a player. Hope you enjoyed. Do smash subscribe if you did, and check out the video on screen for another epic game of chess. Cheers.